Alright, what's up y'all, LakerFan here. As I was about to title today's video, we're here to rank all the defensive badges and tiers for NBA 2K23 Season 5. Now, I will say, first and foremost, with this Season 5, Season 6, likely, stuff like this, there hasn't been a whole lot of update as far as the game goes, not to mention my opinions have been quite formed to this point. So, in some of these tier list videos, you may see very minimal change, but I just wanted to kind of overview these types of things. And if it just means shorter videos, it is what it is. I'm cool with like if these videos ends up at like 8, 9, 10 minutes, something like that. And that's perfectly fine. Most times I do get pretty deep into the details of stuff like that and my true opinions changing and forming and want to get detailed with it with you guys. But honestly, a lot of these badges are pretty self-explanatory at this point. We all know what they do. We all know how good they are to an extent. I do want to give my updated opinions on some of these and explain to you guys why they have changed as well. Now, we're going to get straight into the video. I hope you all enjoy. If you do, for the drop a like, sub if you're new to them, noties, all good stuff, and like always, try to win 2,000 likes. Not to mention, if you guys want to check out the shooting, finishing, and the playmaking, feel free to as well. Playmaking will be coming tomorrow, and then we already have the finishing and shooting already up. But anyway, in today's video, we're going to start with the bottom half of the badges. So anything that was B tier and below, we're going to just replace and explain why. Now, as you can see, we have Menace and Workhorse both moving up from the C tier to the B tier, and then we have Brick Wall and Challenger both moving up from the B to the A. We'll start from top to bottom and just explain in that order. I think just to keep things fun and interesting, normally I go from bottom to top, but like I said, we'll go from top to bottom this time. So, for Brick Wall, I actually think I've been sleeping on where this badge should be in the tier list pretty consistently. This is actually a really good badge. I truly had low-key been sleeping on this myself as a player because I was actually coming out here playing Comp Pro M, running a 6'9" big man that didn't even run Brick Wall because I couldn't afford it with the defensive badges. I finally was able to after they unleashed like the double defense core badge patterns, and I was able to eventually get Brick Wall because of that, and I just had to have the defensive things. If in case you don't know, you don't watch my videos, or in particular the Pro M videos, I play on a 6'9" lockdown build that I still play as a screen setter on offense with, and sort of just a slasher as well. So essentially, I needed the defensive badges. We have some versatility lineup as far as that stuff goes, so I needed like clamps, challenger, interceptor, chasedown, everything, like everything literally. Box out beast, rebound chaser, anchor, all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know if I already mentioned clamps and glove, but I needed those too. So I was finally able to run Brick Wall, and it is a pretty big difference between none to bronze, bronze to silver, silver to gold, and Hall of Fame is really crazy, but it's really hard to run. Regardless though, it's a really good badge. Obviously helps resist backdowns as well as, obviously, we all know, helps you screen people better. So there are multiple facets to this badge, and it's really good. And I think I had just been kind of tripping putting it in B, to be real with you. So that's my explanation on it moving in today's video. Now, for Challenger, this is actually a badge that I think its importance is now here even more, as you're going to see like things like glove have been nerfed a tad bit, and just make it so if you have 99 steal, you still have to play some real defense. And Challenger is an extremely really useful defensive badge. I would even argue the best defensive badge in the game, minus the two that are going to be in the S tier in today's video still. But I mean, even still, you could argue this is the most important defensive badge for a perimeter defender, to like put it simply. I guess to really just give you guys the gist of things, Anchor and Rebound Chaser are both going to be S tiers in today's video still, so just to kind of spill the beans on that. Challenger, in my opinion, is the best perimeter defensive badge though, as far as like being a lockdown. I think it's the most consistent, it's the most one you can rely upon too, because no matter what, even if they have Hall of Fame unpluckable or something like that, you don't have to worry about the fact that your glove isn't going to work. There's nothing that's going to resist your Challenger besides getting them, like them getting you crabbed and going for the blinder shots. Pretty much, that's about it. But having Challenger is still going to help you get contest in every aspect possible, and I think it's a really good badge. And it belongs to be in the A tier, actually the best A tier that we have listed in today's video. But anyway, moving along, we have Menace and Workhorse both moving up from the C to the B. Menace is actually kind of mini clamps in a way. It's going to help you get more bumps. It really does help you just in many different ways. Not to mention, if you really think about it, it's low-key Challenger Junior too, or mini Challenger I should say. I don't know. Anyway, to kind of backtrack on that and explain why I feel that way, Menace is going to help you drop their attribute ratings, 1 per every level of the badge, obviously. So if you have it on Hall of Fame, it drops the ratings by 4 if you're playing tight, like contested defense, essentially. So when it comes to you, like gloving people or challenging people, quote unquote, or even the clamps as well, I just feel like dropping their ball handle ratings and dropping their 3-point ratings is really important as far as that stuff goes. Now, I don't know if Menace works on the interior as well. It could. I don't know that for a fact though, but even if so, that means it could be dropping their, like, you know, finishing ratings as well. Now, again, I don't know that for a fact, so I just rely on the fact that it will be dropping their playmaking and shooting as long as you are contesting them in a good way. And obviously, if you're getting a contest on the shot where it would be something of like the nature of a yellow, or at least even an open, then obviously you're going to be dropping their ratings, and that helps you in terms of them just not making the shot quite as much. Now, as far as that goes, again, it's kind of mini explanation here is that it's like Challenger Junior, Clamps Junior, Glove Junior. I don't think it's Interceptor because obviously it has to do with guarding ball, so and it has to be one of them on-ball defensive badges. So like Glove, Clamps, Challenger. Those are the three in my opinion. I don't really think it like coexists with Pick Dodger too well. Same with like ankle braces or anything like that. So just think of it as those three defensive badges I just talked about: Challenger, Clamps, Glove. Simple. Now, Workhorse. I actually think this is a badge that's very, very good to be running on Hall of Fame, and if you have it on Bronze, it's reasonable too. I don't think anything in between really feels very different from Bronze to like Silver or Silver to Gold. Hall of Fame feels really good, Bronze feels solid, like as in probably the best value personally, but what even is value? I mean, it's a tier 1 badge at the end of the day, so running on Hall of Fame costs 4 points. It's not that bad, and I still think this is a really decent value badge. I mean, if you look at it from a realistic perspective though, this only activates probably, I would say at most 5 to 6 times a game for me personally. Now for other people who maybe jar the ball loose more often or tip more passes, I guess, I do play pretty conservative defense when it comes to Pro-Am. I'm much more about positioning and making sure that I'm not getting out of position as well, whether it's on the interior or the perimeter. So I do play a little bit conservative when it comes to going for interceptions and glove steals and stuff like that. But obviously, Workhorse doesn't really activate quite as much as, let's say, things like Challenger or Menace or even Clamps for that matter would activate. So its activation rate is one of the reasons I don't really think it's one of the better B tier badges. I think Workhorse is probably the worst B tier of these 4 right here, and it's still reasonable to run though. That's why we still have it in the B at the end of the day. Now, to recap on some of the badges that have not moved, we got Chasedown, Pick Dodger, Post Lockdown, Pogo Stick, Ankle Braces, and Off-Ball Pest. Just as a little bit of a recap, obviously, just to jar people's memories. I'm not going to talk about this too much, but Chasedown obviously helps you get chase down blocks. Pick Dodger helps you avoid screens. Really fire for those perimeter to lockdown defenders that can't switch on to bigs. I would argue Chasedown is also a good one to run just for any build if you're talking Pro-Am as well. For the corners, it still works off dropping off the corner and just in general for fast break defense. Obviously for lockdowns, you could actually chase your own matchup as well and make it so your big man doesn't have to always play drop in every situation. And obviously for the power forwards, it's one of the most important badges that you could run because obviously you're going to be hedging and you have to return back to the paint. So that's my take on the chase down. Post lockdown, not really a big place in Pro-Am. I would really more argue it's just a 1v1 defensive badge, but it's still very good at stopping what it's supposed to stop. I would argue though, don't run this too often, only for when you know you're going to be playing against someone who does post scoring. I did it against Ramo. We didn't end up beating him. It's a 2K League player. He was playing with Fab. It was a really good team. And Ramo was on like a 7-foot post scorer slasher type build. And it was going crazy as far as those drop steps. But I did prepare, and I did have Silver Post Lockdown on against him. And it actually worked pretty good at resisting post moves. Now, again, it really just depends because obviously the activation of something like this is going to be very rare if you're just running it at all times. It's probably only going to activate in like 5% of the games you even play of 2K, maybe even less than that. But that's my take on the post lock. For Pogo Stick, it's low-key an all or nothing badge if you ask me. It's Hall of Fame or nothing, and that's why we kind of have it in the C tier. If you run it on a Hall of Fame, it probably moves up to like B, but honestly, oh, it's so annoying off the fact that sometimes it's a tier 3 for most builds as well, and that's just hard to fully invest in, if you ask me. I mean, that's 8 defensive badge points you're putting into Hall of Fame Pogo Stick if you're like a 6'9", or I believe the taller builds also have to run Pogo on like a tier 3 as well. And I don't know, man, it just feels like a very bad value badge. But I mean, either way, it's still decent. If you fully invest into it, it can still be a pretty good badge for doing what you want it to do. The counterpoint to this that some people put in like the comments of me, like, you know, describing what this badge was actually good for back in the day, was they were talking about how obviously it burns adrenaline to go for jumps. So you end up with 0 adrenaline and your Pogo Stick jumps don't look that good. I would argue that's not the case. The jumps look plenty fine as far as like resisting the contest. Jumps in general will defend really good when it comes to the interior. You can't really rely on hands up defense that consistently if you're outsized. So to run a 6'9" with Pogo Stick actually does make a good bit of sense sometimes, but I still think as long as your timing is solid on the jumps, you will not struggle that much, and I don't think it's worth the badge point investment personally. Now for ankle braces, it's kind of the same way, except it's a tier 1, so it makes a lot of sense to at least find it valuable. But again, it's kind of the same thing as what I just talked about with post lockdown, where you need to know you're going against a guard that has killer combos. If you're not playing a guard that has killer combos, which is about 90 to 95% of the people in the game, once again, you don't really need ankle braces. It's not really going to help you for much. And Lord knows, the ankle breaker is not a high activation rate in this game. Simple as that. I mean, honestly, I'm thinking about in the playmaking badge tier list, moving ankle breaker down to like D tier, because I don't see it very often, bro, and it's very particular dribble moves you have to invest it in. And honestly, the way this game's playmaking works too, it's so rare that you can ever afford ankle breaker. Like, if you're not running Dimer or one of those good convenient tier 1 badges to run instead of ankle breaker, you're trolling your team so hard, man. That's at least my take on it. And also, I feel like even just bronze ankle breaker, silver, doesn't activate hardly at all either. So ankle braces is literally just to stop killer combo stuns, and you have to know someone's gonna be using this for these badge points to ever feel useful. That's my take on it. With Pro-Am series, you can generally bank on the fact that if you study people's like game enough, you'll at least know when you're going against them and you're matching up with them in the playoffs or something like that, that you can throw ankle braces on. But again, I know I'm speaking to a very small niche amount of the community when I talk about stuff like that, because obviously the majority of you guys, if you play 5s, it's probably rec, or maybe it's even ranked Pro-Am. And then a good bit of you guys also probably watch me that play comp Pro-Am too, but I know it's a lot harder to get a full 5 organized for stuff like that either, so I don't really assume I'm talking to a whole lot of people when it comes to that. But anyway, moving along, Off-Ball Pest is our lowest rated badge in the D tier. Obviously, not a very good badge, if we're being completely honest. I think it definitely deserves to be below Pogo Stick, Post Lock, and Ankle Braces, and it's probably going to stay here for the whole rest of the year, to be real with you. I don't think its impact is ever going to be felt like that. You can justify this maybe being in the C, in the B, if you're a small corner defense guard that has horrible perimeter defense like ratings, and obviously all you can afford is pretty much Workhorse or Off-Ball Pest. And hey, more power to you if you actually make use of this badge. But anyway, moving along, we don't have any other changing badges. To kind of be honest with you guys, all I did was move 2 badges from C to B and 2 badges from B to C. So we had Brick Wall, Challenger moving up, we had Menace and Workhorse moving up. I obviously, when I make videos like this, just want to keep people in the loop of my opinions. So I'm not going to morph things around and be like, oh, well, Rebound, Chaser, and Anchor, I don't feel that amazing about them, so we're just going to move them down to the A tier just for the sake of the video. I don't do stuff like that. I just want to be as honest and, informative as I can with these videos. Now, I was questioning to myself, I've been asked on Twitter, is any badge in the game actually deserving, defensively, that is, of an S tier rating? And honestly, the more I thought about it, if you play without Anchor, you play without Rebound Chaser as a big man, you are so done for. And it's just such a really necessary badge to run both of them if you're going to do anything as far as playing with the big man. And even to have it on like bronze or silver for these 2 types of things goes such a long way. Now, at the gold level for both of them, you see a huge increase, and then at the Hall of Fame level, you also see a huge increase, in my opinion, as well. They're actually very coexisting with their power of the badge, like where bronze and silver feels pretty good and like really a huge improvement over none, and then gold is like the really good value point, and then Hall of Fame can still be pretty OD as well. But as far as these 2 go, I still think they do deserve to be in the S tier. And again, we're not going to add any super like crazy adjustment to the list just for flair and like, interesting aspect. I know it might be boring, but it is what it is. But anyway, next up, we have Box Out Beast, Glove, Clamps, and Interceptor. So let's start with all the like perimeter defensive badge ones first. So we have Clamps, Interceptor, Glove, and Challenger still being in the A tier right here, and all of those are perimeter defense badges strictly, pretty much. Now, in Interceptor, I guess you could argue can still be an interior defensive badge where you can play a lane to the paint, which obviously still plays a factor. It's just an off-ball badge in general, clearly. So I think this is definitely a good badge to run. It's definitely a 100% must-have for back-end builds and just like in general an off-ball player. So I would say the value of this goes power forwards most importantly, shooting guards after that, probably somewhere between, like, obviously if a point guard can get this, it's really important too because that's how you protect yourself on the lanes. And then centers still kind of need it as well. I would even argue the person who needs it the least is probably a lockdown, but even as a lock, you can still like prevent the point guard from getting the ball back if it ever leaves his hands, and interceptor is really important for that too. But I would argue that Glove, Clamps, and Challenger are more important than interceptor for a pure lock, so if you end up with one of those builds that can't afford to run 4 tier 3s, I think you probably just go with gloves, challenger, and clamps. You can't play without either of those 3 badges when it comes to perimeter defense. And speaking of which, glove, still pretty good. It's not broken like it used to be, but it still makes 100% a pretty good difference. I mean, let's just be real. Like, a 99 steel build with Hall of Fame glove going against anything less than Hall of Fame unpluckable is really problematic. That is the thing, though. The Pro-Am community has shifted over to the Hall of Fame unpluckable guards and even are running Hall of Fame clamp breaker these days as well. And that's why you see so few of these anymore. Not to mention the back taps aren't even feared anymore. I don't think they should have taken that stuff out of the game, personally, but it is what it is. Nowadays, you kind of see glove nearly extinct, but not really. I mean, this badge is still going to attack people that have low levels of unpluckable 100%. It's just, if you go Hall of Fame glove at Hall of Fame unpluckable, it doesn't really work like that anymore. I would argue this is actually a really important badge to run for shooting guards still, though, because any shooting guard build in the game generally has gold unpluckable. And if you have the Hall of Fame glove, that can still go crazy, for sure. But it's more for attacking the liability ball handlers. We'll just put it like that. And you guys can let me know if I'm tripping. If you really think glove belongs in the B tier or something like that, I guess you could argue that, but I don't know if it belongs in the same, name as menace and chasedown and workhorse and pick dodger. These are more accessory badges, if you ask me. They're not needed to be ran on a build. Maybe chasedown is needed, but menace, workhorse, pick dodger, really accessory badges. Glove is still a really, really big deal to run as a lockdown. If you don't run this, you're tripping, if you ask me, as a 6'7", and if you had like 99 steel. At that point, why'd you even make the build? So we all know exactly how that works. But anyway, clamps and box out beast. So we'll start with clamps. This one is still very good for getting body ups. It's very good for walling people off. You don't get many forced pickups, I will say. I think that's one thing I wish was in 2K a little bit more, is the forced pickups, man. Like, if you stonewall somebody real bad, even if they're a good ball handler, to still force the pickup, because that's just the whole point of the badge, if you ask me. Like, to be able to just, I mean, what's the point of getting bumps? If you are only getting bumps for 24 seconds, they're bound to still get past you every now and then. So that is one thing I do wish clamps actually factored in a little bit more, is to actually get the stonewall force pickup animations. Either way, though, it's still so necessary. If you don't run clamps as an on-ball defender and you're going against someone that runs clamp breaker, you are done for. They are just going to shred right by you, get straight to the hoop, and just completely just rim run you. Simple as that. So clamps is the anti-clamp breaker, obviously, and it's a huge deal with how good clamp breaker is in this game. Clamp breaker is easily an S tier. It's probably one of the best playmaking badges in the game, period. If not just one of the best badges in the game, period. But that's our take on clamps. Box out beast, it's still a really good badge. I mean, you could even argue like it's somewhere near rebound chaser. I think A tier is a pretty good place to put it, though. And box out beast is clearly good for worming people. You can get around them really good by just holding your LT and just kind of moving your stick in the direction of the player that you're trying to worm. Like, aka, if you're moving straight into him and he just happens to be like right in front of you, and you just move your stick to the right and kind of swerve around him, move your left stick like that, you're going to be able to kind of get around him like that just off having box out beast. And same with box out beast also on the defensive or offensive end too, with the positioning factor. If you have good positioning, you just hold your LT. Box out beast carries as far as that stuff goes. It even makes it so low strength builds can even fight back like that as well. And box out beast is really, really important for that type of stuff. But it's hard to argue any of these A tier badges against each other. They're all really, really good, and that's one thing I will give defense the credit of as well. While there may not be some crazy blinders and Agent 3 style badges out here, or even limitless range or something like that, there are still a lot of really good defensive badges like Challenger, Glove, Interceptor, Clamps, Box Out Beast, Brick Wall. They all can feel their presence felt 100%. Chase Down, not so much presence, but like it's still like a pretty nice badge to have. Same with all the B tiers and C tiers are kind of like just good accessory badges, like I said. But A tier and up feel really dominant. You can feel the power of the badge when you're using it. So anyway, that is all for the video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, for drop a like, sub if you're new, tell them noties, all good stuff. And like always, try to want 2,000 likes. If you made it to the end of the video, put defense or put D in the comments. Search supports me all the way through. Also, feel free to leave any feedback. Let me know if you have any rebuttals to anything as far as where the badges are placed. If you think anything in particular is out of place, like off-ball pest belongs higher. I really don't like when people say stuff like that, though. But everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I'm down to listen to it as well, even though I will disagree with you. But anyway, that's all for the video. I hope y'all enjoyed. And on that, take it easy, man. Peace.